I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic.
As a 19-year-old, someone that's in college, someone that is very up on what's happening across our nation right now, tell us your view on red flag laws.
Well, I got involved in talking about this, and I'm not someone who knows a lot about guns, but the reason why I started talking about red flag gun laws is because I saw a lot of other young conservative influencers sort of giving some width to them, saying maybe we could go back and forth with this because it'll secure Trump some more moderate votes. And I felt it was important to explain to my audience of younger people, many of whom can't even vote yet, why this was a bad idea, why we shouldn't support these laws.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the Douglas Ducote Show.
Hello, American Patriots. Douglas Ducote here. Thanks for joining us. Look, you have heard me over the past several months talk about red flag laws and also my personal opinion on what is happening to generations, especially the young generation across our country, not getting the proper history lesson, and the far left liberals that have infiltrated the college system, high school system, especially out on the West Coast. So this is a great time. I'd like to introduce you guys to Madeline Rose. She's 19 years old. She's a sophomore in college. She is the author of I Can Hear You. It's a pro-life book. This young lady, I've watched her YouTube videos. She's on Twitter, Instagram. She has a lot to say about the youth of America and where they're at this moment. So please welcome Madeline Rose to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is a pleasure, young lady. You know, some of the things that you've been covering, I've been covering the exact same way. You're a younger version of me, and I had the same hair that you have now when I was 19 years old. Believe it or not, except it was blonde, but it was way down here. But that's part of the culture at that time. Can you tell us real quick a little bit about your book? Being an author of a book, I think that's amazing, especially at your age. I just recently finished a book, so I can, I guess, call myself an author here in the next couple of months. So tell us a little bit about the book and where people can find that.
Sure. I wrote it because I wanted a book that would combat all the left-wing books about abortion. It really can be read to really young children, especially if you want to explain to them what being pro-life is. The book is a children's book. It has pictures, and it's in the perspective of the child that's unborn, hearing their parents discuss whether or not to have an abortion. And if there's people who are pro-life in the book who are trying to get the mother not to do it, and people who are pro-choice, and it goes back and forth. But the whole concept is, what if babies can hear you? And what it's really designed to do is introduce being pro-life to a younger generation, not just my age, but 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds. It really plays into this thing that I always say, which is no human being deserves to be erased. So you can find the book on the Caravan to Midnight online store and on Amazon.
Excellent. And what a wonderful choice to talk about. I personally, you know, I raised 3 children plus several stepchildren, and I believe that, you know, even lots of people in the medical profession, doctors believe that, you know, the baby can at least feel sounds, vibration from music and things like that. So what if they can hear you? You know, that's a great title, and we cannot put enough information out there to our children. There's no such thing as enough information to let them know and be prepared as they grow up what life is actually like these days, and to have them ready to be able to have that discussion when they're your age and my age. Sadly, some people of my generation, I'm 57, are just now learning about politics. And, they've had a party all their life, and now they're here going, whoa, what's happening to America? So one of the things that you've recently talked about is the red flag laws. I want to talk to you a little bit about that and your perspective on it. But I want to throw a little twist in there for you. When I watched your recent video on red flag laws, something that I wanted to add in there that I would like everyone to be aware of is the attack on the military veterans of America. And I put out a video recently where I'm discussing just that, how a lot of this, I feel, falls on or goes towards being able to take guns away from vets. We've had Congress people in the past on the Democrat side that have come out and have actually said that veterans are a threat to our nation, especially those coming back from several combat tours and have PTSD. That being said, it is America's veterans that would be the next line of defense after our law enforcement officers to support them in the event of some type of major problem here in America, whether we're being attacked from another country or Islamic terrorism or even domestic terrorism. And to be able to take guns away from vets, I looked at it, and a lot of other veterans look at it as this is part of their strategy. And I'm basing that off of not only being a combat veteran myself and retired U.S. Army, also spent 9 years in law enforcement. And I've watched this trend take place over several years. And the way that the left and the Democrats look at our veterans, especially those that served in combat. So just something for you to think about, and for those that follow you to think about. Veterans are very concerned as well, because we really do believe that there is a major push to strip us of our gun rights, our Second Amendment rights. And one other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that even without the red flag laws, any police officer that shows up to a scene that's called there has the ability to make a decision to remove a gun from someone or guns and ammo from a home if that police officer feels there's a threat of danger to themselves or others. So by making more laws, we head towards that slope of making more laws to restrict our rights. So with that, if you would kind of go into, as a 19-year-old, someone that's in college, someone that is very up on what's happening across our nation right now, tell us your view on red flag laws.
Well, I got involved in talking about this, and I'm not someone who knows a lot about guns, but the reason why I started talking about red flag gun laws is because I saw a lot of other young conservative influencers sort of giving some width to them, saying maybe we could go back and forth with this because it'll secure Trump some more moderate votes. And I felt it was important to explain to my audience of younger people, many of whom can't even vote yet, why this was a bad idea, why we shouldn't support these laws. My main issue with when I was studying red flag gun laws was that you're concentrating all the power to strip someone's constitutional rights away in the hand of a judge. And the issue is we always have these Ninth Circuit judges who one Tuesday decide we're not going to have immigration laws President Trump has done in legally through executive action. They decide this. You have judges in Hawaii who often curtail his efforts. So knowing that, knowing exactly what's going on, I don't understand why anyone in this party or in the conservative movement would say we could give some of this away, because at the end of the day, why would we not trust judges on immigration, but we would trust them on the Second Amendment when it's the other topic that Democrats are often trying to go after? The Second Amendment really is the first straw that they're trying to break so they can do other things. So I just didn't understand why we would do that. And to me, it's just ridiculous to concentrate all the power in a judge's hand and not have any sort of jury or trial, and not even have to actually provide evidence for a warrant. It's just based off of the person in question's actions or statement. You don't have to have irrefutable proof.
Right. And it could be something as simple as a spouse or a loved one that's got an axe to grind, a breakup in a relationship, getting back at the person. Immediately, they're going to lose all those rights. Where without the red flag law, the police officer has to at least make the determination on whether or not they are a threat to themselves or the community, for that matter. So I'm very happy to see, and actually it's a blessing, that there are people like you that not only realize what's happening when it comes to red flag laws and our Constitution, but that are trying to get the message out there to those of your generation. Which brings me to the youth vote itself. One of the things that I've been talking about a lot recently, and you can share with me, if you would please, how this affected you as you were coming through your elementary school, high school, your college. From my kids that went off to college and went through the schooling system, I found that each year there was less and less about American history taught to them. And it was slowly but surely just erased from the books that they had to study from. The books were removed from the library, for instance. When I was in school, from elementary all the way through college, we learned about everything conflict-wise from that current age and time all the way back to the Revolutionary War. Okay, it was something that was just part of it. I go around on speaking engagements and I go to different high schools and talk to students, and I hear a lot of them saying, "Tell me again what Desert Storm was. You know, what was there was 2 wars in the Middle East?" As if they, that wasn't taught to them. They didn't know anything about that. And then the average person today, or the average youth, on 9/11, when we were attacked the second time since Pearl Harbor to that degree of a huge, massive amount of people dying, 18, 19-year-olds were just being born. And so from my point, from what I watch with my own kids and going out to different schools, I've been watching and seeing that a lot of these teachers are not explaining in any kind of detail about what has happened in our past. And there's that old saying, if you don't know your past, you're bound to repeat it. So from your perspective, at 19 years of age, have you witnessed that as you were coming up through your education, where they weren't teaching you about past conflicts and things that have happened, be it negative or positive, to America and our culture?
Well, one of the things that I would talk to my mom about all the time is I felt like I had been learning about the same wars for a really long time. And I think that touches on what you're saying. There are certain wars, like the American Revolution, the War of 1812, that are talked about over and over again, almost to the point where it's ridiculously repetitive. And yet we don't talk about 9/11. We don't talk about other wars like that. We don't even really talk about the Korean War. We talk about wars that are very antiquated if you really think about it, for knowing how it affects us now. And I think this is on purpose, because if you're only learning about the American Revolution, you're not going to question other world events. You're not going to question about why we're doing certain things in the Middle East and whatnot. So I think that was the main thing I observed this. I didn't take a government class. There was no government class I could take until a senior elective in high school. So
Wow.
for me, there were a lot of things that I did not know about. There were a lot of parts of the Constitution I just didn't know about. And that class was not required. I didn't have to take it. I took it as an elective. So that's another part of it, that a lot of these basics of government, how the Constitution works, what the Fourth Amendment is, things like that, that we know are there because of the American Revolution, we're not actually taught anything of. And I think that's a really big deal, because when you constantly are talking about the same two wars, and it really is the American Revolution and the War of 1812, it doesn't leave you any time to wonder other things. My schooling in my senior year only went up to 1999. So we didn't talk about anything involving 9/11, the wars that came after that, the response to that, the current situation in the Middle East. There is no current affairs class, and I can't help but wonder if that's a blessing in disguise, because can you imagine how current events would be spun? If there was a current events class, we might be worse off than we are now. So for me, I would take no current events class over having one now, because as someone who went to high school in Massachusetts and was there during the 2016 election, I cannot imagine how a current events class would be abused by teachers who want to spread their way of thinking.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. Have you had the opportunity to see people like myself, military people, veteran law enforcement officers, come around to school and talk to the youth? And if so, how are they perceived?
Well, I'll tell you an interesting thing. I've never had a conservative speaker come to a high school. I was in, I believe, my junior year of high school, and we had a woman come in a mandatory assembly, but all grade levels of high school, come in and begin talking about very leftist ideals, begin talking about Black Lives Matters and things like this in my junior year, when that was the much bigger story in the news. And I stood up and I said, I don't understand why you're here. I don't understand why we're hearing this. And the teacher said to me, the reason why you don't understand that is because you're so narrow-minded. And I was asked to sit down. So not only is there none of what you're talking about, any sort of outreach, and this was not Boston, this was a pretty rural area of Massachusetts. There's actually the opposite of it. And when I went home and told my mother, she said, why was there no permission slip? Why was there no sign off on this? Because schools a lot of times will just slip in these lectures, slip this stuff in, because they think, what is the kid going to do? Not go to it and risk getting in trouble? I was an honor student. I couldn't not go, because then I would have risked my grades. I would have risked my standing in the school. That's something that's really used against kids who care about that, because you don't want to get into that bad group of people.
Wow. You know, the thing I like about this is that much of what I've been preaching about for the past 2 years, especially in the past 6 months, you're giving validation to that as someone that is witnessing it and seeing it happen right in front of you as a student. And I've been telling my audience this for a long, long time, you know, that is one of the biggest problems we face in the future, all right, in your future, when we have students that are brought up only hearing one side of a story, and especially if their parents lean that direction, they're never, ever going to accept hearing what someone else has to say. And communication is the heart of everything we do in life, whether it's in politics or it's in a relationship. If we can't communicate with one another, we won't learn, and we sure can't move forward, which, you know, seems to be what's happening to Congress over the past several years, is that Republicans and Democrats just can't seem to get along with anything. I have been censored a lot. Right now, I'm on a ban from Facebook for 30 days. YouTube has flagged a lot of my videos. Twitter has banned me in the past. I'm not on Instagram. But have you experienced any type of attack from social media directed at you because of your voice and your videos that you're talking about?
Not so much. One thing that has happened that I've seen several times is I've had several videos that get 80,000, 70,000 views. And I'll go back and check a week later, and the view count that I have a screenshot of will be 10,000 lower. That's happened to me several times. And then you'll click the impressions area to see how many people have seen it. And if 200,000 people have seen it, all of a sudden it'll be 150,000. And I've noticed that several times I called that out on Twitter, the next day it was fixed. So people are paying attention to it. I don't run into as much problems, I think, in censorship because I do have so many very young people who follow me in the 12-year-old range, pretty much all across the world. My stuff tends to be a little more tempered and talking more in the strategy realm or the day-to-day stuff, but I have had video counts messed with on Twitter.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's, sadly, they don't want to hear what anyone that leans right or conservative, they don't want to have us get that message out there. We need more people, especially those that are high school age, college age, to take up this fight with us and do what you're doing, do what I'm doing, get on social media and start reaching people and getting a voice out there. Speaking of, you brought up something to me earlier. I'd love for you to share with everyone about Fox News's Twitter account. Please take it.
Last night I was on Twitter and I went to @Fox News, the general Fox News account, not Fox News 25, the main one. And I remember that Fox News is on some sort of Twitter break where they have 18.4 million followers, but yet they're not so much using that account. And I looked back and their last tweet is from November of 2018. So I made a 3-minute video, a live stream rather, about how ridiculous this is. And one thing that really bothers me is that what this does is it allows CNN, MSNBC, CBS, all of them to be the only news accounts out there, aside from One American News, writing the headlines that people will see in their feeds. That's a really big problem to me. Because going into 2020, so much of what we read is just headlines. That's just the truth. People are not going to click on every article to dissect it. So to have Fox News willfully giving up a tool, a direct line to 18.4 million human beings, to me is ridiculous because they're not grasping the opportunity to shape even just a little bit of the Twitter narrative on major breaking news stories, whether that's shootings or just public health issues. It's also, to me, disrespectful to the 18.4 million people that have followed it looking for news from a conservative outlet like that. I understand they might be on some sort of protest, but it's just not a protest we have time for.
I could not agree more. Sadly, adults are making those decisions, and adults sometimes just shouldn't be in the room. All right. Tell us how people can find you across the social media platforms.
You can find me on Twitter at Magdalene Rose, YouTube at Magdalene Rose, Instagram at Magdalene Rose, and you can email me at Magdalene Rose if you want to submit a question for something that I do or talk to me. But Twitter is where everything is. Also on Periscope at Magdalene Rose. Twitter is where you're going to find everything, and you can find my book at caravantomidnight.com.
Excellent. And I hope that everybody goes out there and connects with you and follows you on social media. I will put it out there and I will promote you the best I can because I've been saying for a long time, we need the youth to do what you're doing right now. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And as an American patriot, a combat veteran law enforcement officer, somebody that bleeds red, white, and blue, you, ma'am, are a true American patriot. Thank you for coming on and being a part of the show and sharing your knowledge, and I hope that you'll come back in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All righty, folks. Look, it's amazing when we have the opportunity to talk to our youth about the things that we discuss and talk about on a day-to-day basis. If we do not bring them into this picture and educate them and hear their voice, then we will be that one generation away from extinction, as President Ronald Reagan so put forth several years ago. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our Blue and Gold Star families, our president, and our country. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you all have a wonderful and blessed day. For now, I'm Douglas Ducote, and I'm out.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic.